had this preconceived notion. Artwork is either beautiful, commercial, sellable, marketable, or it is conversational. If I were to create work that's happy, it would be something without conversation. Cool, I think we're on. Well, hello out there to the wonderful wide world. Welcome to my art studio here in Columbia, South Carolina. My name is Jen Carmiel. I am a figure painter and content creator as now determined by the YouTube and Instagram gods, because if I want to show my artwork, apparently I have to be a content creator. So today I am filming a video to talk about my art series called Breathing. This is going to be structured. You can go into the description if you only want to hear about a certain part of the video. I had originally a different video planned to go up today, but I also have my print drop coming today as well. And while I was listing my shop and getting everything ready for that drop, I was thinking to myself how much I just really wanted to talk about this series and to tell people a little bit about what's behind it. So if you don't already know me, my name is Jen. I'm here to talk to you about art. I make content about creative living because I know what it feels like to completely lose your creative spark and to not really know how to get it back. And so the content that I create is intended to help you live more creatively as well, whether that's through consuming artwork or through my little museum visit vlogs or anything that can just make you feel a little bit more connected to the arts. I remember one of the things my therapist telling me whenever I was having a hard time being creative was, if you feel like you can't create art, consume it at least, just so that you can put yourself a little bit in that mindset. Anyway, that was a little tangent. So today we are here to talk about my art series, Breathing. Thank you for tagging along, it's so much fun. So I believe that's enough with introductions. Okay. So I think that's enough with introductions. So I'm going to go right into the video. But I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to start with the background. Why did I create Breathing? And where did it come from? Where did I come from? Because I mean, this is some 10 odd years into my art journey that I've created this series. Just to give you a little bit of background, and I promise there is a point at the end, even though, like, you know, I'm starting way in the beginning, you know, I think it's very important to know when it comes to this series, all of these little details. So let's get started. So I have been painting and drawing since I can remember. Since I was 8 or 9 years old, I remember having all this notebook paper and I would just carry it around with me. I remember specifically when I was a kid, I remember sitting in my little bed and I remember drawing a self-portrait, like as a kid, like 8 or 9 years old. And I remember being like, why doesn't it look like me? Like, it has 2 eyes, it has a nose, it has a mouth, it has all the elements of a face. Why doesn't it look like me? I remember being really fascinated and captured by wanting to capture likeness at such a young age. And I remember also having this folder of printer paper I would bring with me to school. I would get on the bus and I would draw. I would draw these fairies, castles, mermaids, all these fun little things. And then my sister got me my very first sketchbook. It was spiral bound and I was able to fill that entire sketchbook up. And I remember it shocking me at first. I was like, what? I filled up a whole sketchbook? What? That's crazy. So I filled up the entire sketchbook and then I got another one and another one and another one, and I just kept filling them up. I have so much art at this point. There's too much art. More than I can fit into any closet that I own. And for so long, my paintings and drawings were a catharsis for struggle. I often created a lot of kind of sad looking drawings and paintings. And in high school, my first artist statement was, I am a vessel through which art escapes. And that's because when I would draw or paint, I didn't feel like I did it consciously. I felt like there was something else around me that was creating it. They had the idea, something else wanted this to exist, and they used me to create it. That I didn't consciously say I'm going to sit down and draw this, it's just that it just came out of me. Today I realized that that was probably due to a lot of unprocessed emotions and feelings, and I used my art to process them. And as a result, my art was, for a lack of a better word, sad. And I remember thinking to myself, my initial thought was, I wish I could create something that was a little bit happier, just because whenever I would show people the drawings and paintings, I felt like it was like like they were peering into my little head, you know, like my intimate thoughts, and it felt a little invasive. So I was like, I wish I could create something that was a little bit less intense. After enough time, that thought of, I wish I could create something happier, turned into a little bit of defensiveness. It turned into, well, happy things are trivial and unimportant anyway. Happy things are commercial and they're not fine art, because the art that I make tells a story and it creates conversation. And if I were to create work that's happy, that would be cheap. It would be something without conversation. I remember one time my boyfriend looked at one of my paintings from college and he said that it looked scary. But at the time that I created it, I was really telling a lot of interesting conversations with my artwork. Throughout college was a time whenever my artwork was centered around mental health awareness, and I created a series called Dissociation, which had all of these crouching figures who were trying to hide themselves. And it's because of this idea that you should be ashamed of certain things in your personhood that you feel like you need to hide away so that other people will accept you. And I have a lot of respect for that body of work. I really do. I think a lot of it's really interesting and has a lot of cool things that happen with form, and I do think it tells an important story and it has an important conversation behind it as well. But that said, whenever I sat down not today, when was this? A month ago. But that said, when I sat down a month ago to create new work and to talk about myself again as a painter, that work wasn't what I wanted to talk about. So I had to make a choice. I had to either promote my old work, even though it's something that I don't identify with anymore. I'm not the same person I am today as I was then when I made it. I was happy to talk about it then because that's the headspace that I was in. But now I feel like I've grown. That's been 3-4 years since I made that artwork, that it doesn't feel natural for me to promote it because I'm just in a different headspace. And keep in mind that after I graduated college, I didn't paint for probably 2 years. And it's not like that happened consciously. I didn't say, I'm not gonna paint anymore. No, I just slowly stopped doing it because I started working full time. And the kind of job that I had, it's not necessarily that I didn't have time anymore to paint. It's that I didn't have the soul anymore to paint. Like, the kind of job that I had was intense, and it constantly poked at my head that said, you need to think about this. This is important. And for context, if you don't know, I used to be a property manager. I worked in property management. And it's just kind of a job that I randomly stepped into. It offered me a lot of benefits, and so I stayed there. But it was a very intense job where you had to deal with a lot of emergencies that I could deal with. I could enact these solutions that made everyone happier and better for it. I was good at my job, but I wasn't happy at my job. This job created an environment that made it impossible for me to feel like I could relax, or like I was safe, or that I was safe enough to express joy. And that's where breathing comes in. So breathing is permission to express joy. Coming up with the concept of breathing, it was created during what felt like the lowest point in my life. I remember that before I started this series, I was constantly, every day, leaving work in tears. And I would use my lunch breaks to step out of the office just so that people wouldn't see my crying spells. I remember there was a time when I spontaneously started crying in front of a manager, and they're just like, I'll give you a minute. And then I went back to an apartment on site of my job, hundreds of miles away from my friends and family. I felt like I was completely lost. I had uprooted my life for a company who said they would do something really great for me, and that wasn't the reality of the situation. And so I quit. And I moved again, which would have been the second time within a 3-month period. I sat down in my new apartment, completely unfurnished, and I had only lived in furnished apartments until that day. And I found the new little corner that would become my art studio. And I thought to myself, what did I do? I left behind a job that gave me stability for 4 years and what I perceived to be trajectory in life. But I just had to trust that it would work out because I knew that I wasn't happy. And even prior to being forced out of this job, I constantly had this nagging thought in the back of my head. I constantly had this nagging thought, I wish I was an artist. I wish I could do something with my paintings. And so in those moments, after everything went down, I had nothing but to trust that this would work out the way that it needed to work out. I remember talking to my therapist about how lost I felt and how I didn't know what to do because either one, I talk about the work that I already made and it's work that I don't identify with anymore. It feels like the work of a friend. It feels like my best friend made this artwork and I love it. It's cool. It's great. But it's not mine anymore because I've just changed so much over the 3 years. I've grown more confident, I've grown more love for myself and for the community, for the world. I have a better outlook on life. I just feel like I'm a different person. So to talk about this work that has a little bit more of a, I guess, deep conversation around items that I want a little bit more levity about. So I remember I was talking to her about that and she said, why don't you try to rework some of those pieces? And so I sat down and I was like, maybe there's something actually there. And I took the image of all those figures that I painted in college and I remembered what it felt like to paint them. I remember the inspirations and I remember the action of painting. And I said, what if Jennifer today made them? What would they look like? What would they feel like? And Breathing was born. Creating Breathing came easily and I immediately fell in love with painting and this work itself. So each of these paintings start with a tic-tac-toe type of pattern with red oil paint on the canvas. The figure is slowly built up on top of that structure and those boxes created by that pattern either fade away into the figure or they stand stubborn and they're like, I'm not going anywhere. And the figure stands on the canvas regardless. Now my previous work had muted colors. They had grays and all these desaturated tones. This new work is bright and lively and oh my gosh, it is just gorgeous. It really livens up space whenever it's there. I remember in the past thinking to myself that paintings that were happy were trivial, or paintings that were happy had lesser value because somehow they didn't create a conversation. I don't believe that anymore. They absolutely do create a conversation. Breathing, for me, is an act of rebellion. It's the act of when the world is in disarray, when you are struggling, you still find it in yourself to breathe through it and to create something that makes your world, that makes your space a little bit more happy, a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more calm, a little bit more yourself, that you don't let yourself get absorbed by the things that are happening in the world around you because you are standing strong. You have your structure. You don't allow them to muddy your colors. You remain yourself. While I was creating Breathing, I found a newfound respect for artwork that exists to beautify a space. Previously, I had this preconceived notion that artwork is either beautiful, commercial, sellable, marketable, or it is conversational, theoretical, intellectual, valuable. I thought that there were only two things you could say when you walked up to a painting. You either say, oh, that's nice, it's pretty, or you can say, oh, what does that mean? And why can't you say both? So creating Breathing was a challenge for me to approach a painting and say both. To say, that's beautiful, that makes my space feel so much nicer. And to say, what does it mean? So here is the story behind the artwork in Breathing. We have two elements when it comes to the material and the symbolism in these paintings. The first being the box, and the second being the color red. So the box is the expectations that other people have of you. It's the environment that you find yourself in that you either need to work with or work to get out of. The painting starts with a red tic-tac-toe pattern. So these boxes represent the structure, the expectations that the world has on you when you emerge and when you present yourself to it. So when you start emerging in the environment that you're in, you have two choices: to submit to the expectations, to let that box keep you in, and to kind of work with the box. Or you have the option to disregard the box. You become one with those expectations, you make peace with them, and you play ball in the game, so to say, you know? You become a little bit of the person that people expect you to be, and maybe you find that works for you, and that's great. You also have the option to ignore the box entirely and to become your own person despite what other people might expect of you. And even though that sounds like a really great thing to do, because Disney Channel, honestly, sometimes it can make your life a little hard if you don't work with people's expectations just a little bit. Isn't that called being a little nice or respectful or people-pleasing? I'm not sure. There's a little bit there, you know, with working with people and what they might want or expect from you. As the subject emerges in these paintings, that box is rubbed away. The figure takes up more space, becomes a little bit more themselves, or sometimes the box stays a little stubborn and it's a little bit more prominent in the painting, and the figure seems to exist in spite of the painting. Regardless, the way the figures are positioned, their poses, these vibrant colors, these expressive strokes make one thing clear, and it's that these figures are free. They're free to breathe. The red color in these paintings is the passion. It's those things that you really want to do. So these boxes, while they're there, you find your passion inside the expectations. You find a way to continue and to make it your own. It is the spark that lights you up, that makes you want to go out and do the things that you do. It's who you settle into as you get older. In some paintings, the red is a gentle guideline, almost subdued, and it becomes more like the structure that holds that figure together. Maybe it's because they know themselves now. They don't have anything to prove. They don't need to be as loud anymore because they're comfortable. They're comfortable in themselves. In other paintings, the red is very prominent, very bold, as if the painting is screaming, "You can see me," and I'm proud of it. I love being here. The figure exists in spite of that passion, often wrestling with it. So let's get to these characters. Tomorrow I am releasing the prints for the first 5 paintings in the collection, Breathing. These first 5 paintings were the images that started everything. They were the pieces that I put side by side in the beginning and looked at them and went, something's happening! Oh my gosh, this is exciting! So I am just in love with these 5 paintings. I consider them my little babies, and I'm like, oh, they're growing up so fast. So let's get to know a little bit about each of these different characters. I will give you a few short sentences to give you context about where they come from, but also to leave it open enough for you to add your own meaning as well, to get to know them yourself, so to say. The first one is Breathing. How warm this piece is. The figure lays on her back and appears to be in complete bliss, daydreaming about something wonderful yet to come, perhaps. Her hand curls up by the side of her cheek, and her other arm rests gently across her stomach. She gazes up at the viewer, happy to see you come visit. The second one is titled Sunday Morning. There was no tossing, no turning during the night. No, these women woke up gently One Sunday morning, side by side, hand in hand. As the sun rose, they were bathed in golden light. One thing is for certain, they are at peace. The third one is gaze. How is it hanging? The figure leans back, head propped up against her hand. She lounges comfortably in a bathing suit and a modest sweater, though appears to be anything but shy. Is her gaze inviting, challenging, humorous? That's up to the viewer. We all see her a little differently. Number 4 is Beach Day. This figure sits on a bench near the seashore. She dries herself with a green and blue towel, not paying much attention to the viewer. She's in her element. This moment belongs to her. The neutral colors and wispy brush strokes depict the salty air rushing around her. It's just a couple minutes before she gets back in the water. The final one, number 5, is titled Sit With It. This figure enters the room slowly and sits down in front of you, cross-legged on the floor. She's comfortable, but you can tell she has something on her mind. Something she's trying to sort out. The reds that pulse through this painting represent the importance of these thoughts and the urgency she feels. How important these thoughts feel to her. The blues represent a calm that sweeps over her once she's had time to sort out her thoughts. Sometimes you really do just need to sit with it. And there we are. There we are, yay! So now you know all about my painting series, Breathing. My new print collection will be dropping by the time you guys watch this today. What? Cool! Ah, fun! This is the first time ever I'm offering prints, and it has been a learning process for sure, and I am so excited with how these prints came out. I have a couple here in front of me just to kind of look at, and oh my gosh, I love them! Just look at how beautiful they are. The beauty, she is grace, she is Miss United States. Anyway, you will be able to see all of these in depth on my website. So that will be in the description for you guys to follow along at. You can also read the little excerpts that I just read on my website paired with each piece. And if you do purchase one, you'll get a little typed out version of that with the piece as well. These prints are printed locally here in Columbia, South Carolina, and they're packaged up with very, very much care. And then they are sent away to your lovely doorstep. It'll be so fun and cute. I can't wait to send them all new little homes. It'll be great. If you're interested in getting a framed and signed print, I will be offering those in extremely limited availability on my Instagram stories today, and as well as over email. So if you are interested in a signed and framed print, go ahead and contact me and I will be able to get with you on the details of that. I do know that there are not a lot available because I'm looking at all the frames I have right here on the floor, and let me tell you, there's just a small amount. Either way, my priority is making sure that people have absolutely beautiful spaces to call their own. Whether that's your bedroom, your living room, your home office, even bathroom art. That is honestly one of my favorite places to hang art, and I feel like it's underutilized. Hallways, kitchens, art everywhere. So that's my priority, is making sure that you have a beautiful space. So if you have somewhere you want to decorate and you don't know where or how or what to hang in it, literally just email me and I will be more than happy to work with you to find a solution to make your home the most beautiful home in the world. If you hear weird noises, it's because Tazo's playing with the blinds right there. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble about my favorite thing in the entire world, which is figure painting. I hope you enjoyed all of these pieces as much as I have enjoyed painting them. If you have any questions, pop them into the comments and I will be typing away a little response to you shortly. It'll be fun, it'll be cool, it'll be jazzy, smazzy. Yeah, I don't know what words are. Either way, I know that there is so much, so many things you can choose to do in your day. The world is so busy, and they're trying to convince you to be busy too. I know it, because they try to do the same to me, and I'm like, girl, I just want to chill. Spending any amount of time on this channel is truly a gift. I cannot say that enough. I really do consider it a gift, and for that, this humble artist says thank you. Made it to the end, made it to the end. This is the outro sequence going, Anyway, I did not yet say one time yet to subscribe or to like this video. Do I get a cookie, dear sir? Damn, I just said it. Anyway, we're here anyway, so subscribe. Yeah. It helps me on my little art journey, so subscribe and like. I'm gonna show you my cat, maybe he'll convince you. Come here, Tazo. Come here. I'm sorry to steal you from your little window ledge, but the viewers need to see you. Oh yeah. You wanna subscribe for Tazo? Oh. I think that's catlish for subscribe.